People who are stopped at a red light for 1 minute but creep forward a few feet every 10 seconds. Why? The radio station I like is 60 miles away. Sometimes when I stop it's stuck on static. I have to creep forward to find it again. Legit the only reason I'll creep, and I still hate doing that. Or some big ass dump truck has stopped besides me and fucked the radio signal, so I have to creep to find it. I take that back. I'll also creep to stay in the shadow of a big ass truck so the sun doesn't shine on my eyes. I have a buddy who does this creeping, so I decided to ask him. He said that he was under the impression that certain lights have pads in the ground that detect weight to determine when someone is actually there, so it can prioritize changing the light, and that he does it to try and make the light change faster. /__//. I've been chill about speeders and reckless drivers ever since I realized that some of those people, maybe even just one, might really need to get somewhere as quickly as they possibly can. I used to actively try to block them from pulling whatever dick move they were leaning toward. Now I just get out of the way. Thanks to you, I finally have a reason to not look at people who creep up at stoplights like they've just shit their pants standing up. They might have a little motion-hungry nugget strapped in that car. Thanks. Smiley face. Edit. I just want to clarify that I never tried to stop people from driving lawfully. My city is notorious for shitty drivers, and my usual move was to simply merge over when I saw someone gaining up at twice the posted speed limit. Also, if someone is signaling at you, get the fuck out of their way. This is just a good way to live. If you frame the actions of others as if there were external circumstances you are unaware of, it makes people's crappy behaviors a lot more tolerable. Obviously don't let yourself get abused, but it helps tremendously with maintaining a good mood and feeling better about others. My friends ask me how I'm such a patient driver and don't have any road rage. It's because I treat all drivers like tourists. If they are doing something stupid or driving too slow, I assume they are unfamiliar with the area and are just trying to figure it out with their family in the back seat. When my son was an infant, he had a seizure while I was at the gym and the wife was home with him. She called pretty frantically, and I headed home in a hurry, but not recklessly, so I could either stay home with our other child or ride with my son in the ambulance. I was only about 10 minutes from the house. I turned on my hazard lights and flashed a couple times as I moved through traffic. Most people moved out of the way, but this one woman was determined to block me in. She saw me coming, moved over in the left lane. There was another car just ahead of her in the right, matched speeds with the car beside her and refused to move over after flashing in a couple honks. The car beside her saw what was going on and motioned for me to pass as they slowed down, but by that time I had missed getting through an intersection with a light. That, too, changed my whole approach about people who seem to be in a hurry. Now I just assume they have some sort of emergency like I experienced that day, and I'm more than happy to move over or pull to the side so they can continue on. I remember an AskReddit thread that prompted a story from one guy that made me realize this. They were a logging or line cutting crew that was a ways out of town. One guy cut his leg badly and was bleeding out. They needed to race to a midway point with him to meet the ambulance from town, otherwise he was going to die. So naturally some lady saw them racing down the highway and decided to play traffic cop, blocking them from passing for several minutes. The wound up getting to the ambulance a couple seconds after their friend died. Sometimes looking for an angle at which I can see the signal on the corresponding lights to anticipate when I'll need to get into gear. Yes, my friend has a stick shift and I didn't realize how much time and energy there is driving it in a city. Traffic lights and intersections aren't really anything bad in a manual. It's the moving 2 inches at a time in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the highway that takes energy and the patience of a saint. Too much stopping to just stay in a low gear and wiggle back and forth to not stall. But moving just enough that you can't get a little momentum and just coast on neutral. It's that terrible middle ground where you are constantly shifting just to go nowhere. I have a couple of tunnel traffic lights which use magnetic fields. I'm a cyclist with a steel-framed bike, and if I keep my bike upright I have to wait for a car to come along and trigger the sensor. If the sensor doesn't trigger, it means there's a car in the tunnel coming my way. I figured out that I can trigger the traffic light by stepping off my bike, lying it down on its side across the sensor and then getting back on the bike. It works all the time, but it does make me look a little strange to pedestrians. I've heard about this from motorcyclists too, and apparently the solution is to bring your own magnet, lol. That, or if you are in the city, hopping off and pushing the pedestrian crosswalk button to force a light change. My buddy has to do this all the time at the intersection right next to his apartment building. The question I have is why some people stop 30 feet before the next stopped car? Please, for the love of God, pull forward so I can get in the left-hand turn lane. Edit, y'all are giving too much credit to some of these distracted texting driver fools. Always nice to see Reddit giving strangers the benefit of the doubt though. There are driving classes out there that do teach and recommend leaving one vehicle length between vehicles at stoplights. But like most of the super safe driving techniques, it is seen as crazy and rude by other drivers. Best to practice those techniques on bad weather days, when the spacing and such is truly needed.